Spoilers.
What if I told you a story about a present-day military fighting in a world of fantasy of dragons and swords and sorcery and demigods and stuff like that? You would say, "Oh yeah, that's a great one. That's a good one." But have they ever done one? Yeah, they did. If you're an anime fan, you know this series. This is one of my top favorite anime series of all time. I've never read the novels. Now, I'm certain that the stories do continue this in the novelizations, that there is a longer storyline. This is basically the first half of this story. And this is Gate. If you haven't seen this, where the hell have you been? You can watch this. I believe it's still on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. It's still on there. I believe also Tubi TV has it. Tubi TV has it in Japanese, I think, still, if it hasn't on there. Hulu has it in both languages. I recommend both on there, the language on there. It is a really good series. It was the first initial run. The novel series was 2006 to 2009. Light novels came out about 2010 to 15. The manga was 2011 to I think it's still current, if I'm not mistaken. The anime series was 2015 to 2016, which is like a 24 episode run, 2-season run on there. And then I think there's another light novel series on there. I don't think this is finished yet, or whatever it is, or it has, because I haven't really paid attention to the novel series. I should, but I've got so many books in my nature I have to catch up on there. The main premise is it's modern day Ginza, Tokyo. And what happens, a door opens up in the middle of Ginza. It looks like a Roman type door. And the door opens up, and these medieval soldiers and creatures come flooding through. And they start attacking. And this one particular guy, his name is Itami. He's on his way to one of these conventions and stuff like that, who we find out that he happens to be a soldier in the Japanese self-defense force. And he ends up helping. He ends up to be the hero of the day. The self-defense force ends up fighting these things off, capturing some of the soldiers. The Japanese government itself decides to recon the gate and finds that there's another world on the other side of the gate. So they gather a defense force and cross over to the other side, finding that there's an army on the other side waiting for them, and they end up easily dispatching the army of medieval soldiers, because fortunately tanks, guns, missiles versus a medieval army, you know that basically they're going to get wiped out, and they end up to be wiping out most of the army in itself. They end up making a base there, and what they find out is the place is rich with many minerals, elements, gold, oil. It's a treasure trove. It's a treasure trove of many things that they can use. It'll enrich Japan, which the secondary storyline is that the Americas and other countries end up to be wanting their due in there, and that's a separate storyline, which they do put a little bit into this midway through, but in the anime they don't focus on this. I think in the novelizations they do tend to get a little further on that. So basically they call it the special region, and they've sent out groups to recon the area. Itami, who hero of the nation, is given in his own group, ends up sending out there, ends up hooking up, fighting dragons, saving villages, hooking up with elves, basically, dispatching marauders and stuff like that. Ends up meeting a princess. I love the translation of the princess is Princess Pina Colada. Wow. The writer on this one, which is Takayumo Yani, Pina Colada, it's spelled Pina, Colada, Colada, ends up to be helped by Itami, saved, and all this. And there's a lot in between on there. And in a way, it almost starts to sound that Itami is gaining a harem in a way, in certain ways, and not. Some people put into this specifics on that. He ends up hooking up with an elf named Tuka, a sort of a female magician named Lelena, and a demigod, which is one of my most favorite characters. On my wall, I have one of those metal companies that make those metal pictures. On my wall behind me, I have a picture of Rory Mercury, which she's like one of the coolest characters on there. This girl's got a big axe, and she just swarms in and she's a god. She's literally a demigod of death, and that's what she does. She just kills. It just turns her on. A lot of people say, well, she's a young girl and all that. Well, no, her character's about 900 years old. She just became a demigod at a young age, and she stopped aging. She's literally an adult, really, just in a small body. It's like if you saw Interview with the Vampire, the young vampire girl who's lived years and years and years, but she stayed a young child. This happened. And the thing about it is, it's like when she reaches 1,000 years, she's gonna literally move up, like her spirit move up out of her body, away from this world into the upper of the godhood on there. But there are many other characters. There's so many characters in this series. To go down the list, it would be just insane to talk here. We'll be here for another hour or so. But that's basically the main on there. There's another elf. There's a dark elf that joins on with them. There are other main characters that you find out. There are representatives from Japan that gets involved in the situation. We get to the point where a peace treaty is trying to be built upon this between Japan and the special region, which Princess Pina is trying to do, but her brother is trying to take over the country. Prince Zorzo, he's like the main antagonist, which is basically he's being manipulated by another character in the background, and it gets all crazy. There are some sort of tout-backs to Apocalypse Now. The helicopter scene. I can't believe they got away with this one in an anime. There is an actual scene where they literally doing lines from Apocalypse Now, from that attack scene, Robert Duvall scene, where they're attacking these medieval soldiers that have gone against the country and decided to create their own army and take over this small kingdom that's being run by a small little girl because her family was killed in the beginning of the war itself. That they ended up dying in the war. Her mother passed away and stuff like that, so she's like the only one running the country, from what Pina tells us. So this group of men, army of men, I think 6,000, just basically try to attack it. And literally, it's almost word for word. Some scenes. Hey, I'll get you one for that one. And it's a great attack scene. And yes, they use Ride of the Valkyries. Yes, Ride of the Valkyries is progressed out on this. There's one of some crazy stuff on there. There is a great battle. They have like a dragon on there flame dragon that they end up fighting a couple of times in this series. And there's a great battle in the second season on this, in the mouth of a volcano. I mean, we can go through on and on with this whole story, the war, the senators, Sukurawara. That's another storyline in itself, which that he ends up putting his foot in his mouth on that one, because he'll end up marrying this young girl from on there, from what I understand. But there is more toward this. There's more toward this. I mean, the series ends very nicely. Tommy ends up getting, because one of the big things is that Tommy loves his manga, his anime, and he's throughout this he's trying to get to that comic convention. He's trying to get there, and at the end he ends up getting there, and he ends Rory, Tuca, Leila, they say, hey, you didn't go without us, but the people out there, it turns out to be this whole big thing, and the cops kind of disrupt this at the end of the series, at the end of this anime series. But there is more toward this story. There is more toward this. This should get another season. This should have another season to it. In my other video that I talk in Another World with my cell phone, I said the same thing. There are more stories that they can do. One thing about the Japanese is that, there are many mangas, there are many animes that are still ongoing. Bleach, Dragon Ball. We're just now going back into Shaman King again. Go-Go 13. One of the longest, I think it's already reached a world record. One of the longest, not animes, but mangas books of all time. This has been around since I was a kid, and it's still going on today. It's had an anime series. It's had an anime movie. And the stories are still ongoing. There's even a live-action movie. Yeah, that's right. Go-Go 13 has a live-action movie out there. Sentai Filmworks did this was licensed to them here in North America. 2 seasons, like I said. It aired in 2016. It's 2021. They should be working on another one. They should be. That's what I say. From what I understand, from the end of the series, just to give you a little taste of what is going on in this world, there are 2 major things that are going on. Prince Zorzo ends up to be defeated at the end of the anime series. He goes into hiding and engages into a guerrilla war to try to discredit Japan by creating acts of terror. And basically Japan tries to draw them out. He's trying to get sympathy from sympathizers to the prince. But again, it's basically they try to stop him on there. And then another problem that poses a major problem is the gate itself. Now, from what we understand from the history of the gate, from what they've been told and what they've found out in the anime series, is that this gate opens and closes every once in a while. And it seems like it ends up crossing to both sides. So it kind of sort of builds up both worlds. So in a way, it's just basically swapping out people, sort of keeping both worlds balanced in itself. Now, the gate was opened by Hardy. Hardy is a demigod that is in love with Rory, I believe with Rory, if I'm not mistaken. If that's the one that's in love, that wants Rory to marry Hardy, but Rory refuses on there. But she's the one who opened the gate initially, and to stabilize it, the Empire's magicians enlarged and stabilized it. And it begins to cause, from what I understand, disruptions, cataclysmic disruptions. One first look at this from the series, from the animated series, is that an earthquake happens, and there hasn't been an earthquake in this world, I guess, for generations, because nobody's ever experienced on that. You only have heard from legends that the earthquakes and stuff like that. And because of the disruptions, it's pushing the Earth away from the mutual anchor point of the gates. So from what I understand, there's ended up to be a struggle of the Civil War, and also to help balance the gates before the worlds rip apart. Now, from what I understand from the novelization, I guess the story that's in the anime is from the first novelization. There is a second season of novelizations from the point of view of the Maritime Self-Defense Force, which is, they introduce two other characters, and they end up taking exploration duties, because I guess the gate ends up to be closed for some time, and then it's reopened again, I guess, to balance out. And I guess this is where the battle between countries on the Earth side, because of the monopoly that Japan has over the international community of the gate. So I believe the second part of it is more focused to the domestic policies, as well as the terrain, as well as the investigation of the rest of the world in the special region. And more toward, there's more relationships formed with the local residents in there. Even though there were a lot in the anime, there was a lot of, relations with a lot of characters in there. Because toward the end, you saw some of the defense force ends up hooking up with some of the people, some of the women, some of the demi-humans. Yeah, there are a lot of demi-humans, cat girls, Medusas, so much that's in this, that's in there. I mean, I didn't even go into the town that was built around the military base. They were literally building a fantastic town and becoming almost a city in a way around the military base that the Japanese Defense Force built. So you could imagine when the doors closed and probably reopened, what has changed so much on there. The region itself. I mean, the place is full of riches. There is gold, there is silver, there's copper, there's stuff that can be mined and brought back to help this world. And also, in the reverse, there are things that were brought into the special region as far as technology, as far as things that the special region doesn't have. There were like these plates and utensils and stuff like that, clothing. Pina Colada loved the freaking the mangas. She loved the mangas, and there was one particular type of mangas that she liked, and she always wanted to get them as well. That was done when there was a point where Pina Colada and some of the characters ended up crossing over and visiting Japan for the first time. And that's a great story in itself. And you look to the perspective that this should have another season, whether they take the season 2 novelization or the manga, or however they want to put this. But there should be another season of this. This was a very good story. Some people do criticize it. This is hard to get on Blu-ray. It's very expensive right now. I think we're harking $50, $60, $70. I mean, there's some points where they've been 30 through Sentai, if you can get it at that sale price point. But I've seen high prices on this, and these are two box sets on there. The combined box set together of both seasons, very difficult to get. It's out there, but it's difficult to get. So we cross fingers. Please give us another game. So you've reached this summer edition of Man Man with the Show. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe, like, share. Man Man with the Show and Saturday Pre-Flight will be returning in September with all new shows. We will be continuing more of these special summer episodes. down the line. Do catch them. You'll enjoy them. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye now.